Resonance of hope. Aria Kalani stood at the transparent diplomatic interface, her fingers hovering just above the quantum translation matrix. The chamber around her hummed with anticipation, a delicate space designed for the most complex form of communication humanity had ever attempted. The diplomatic mission to the Nexus Collective was more than a typical first contact scenario. It represented humanity's most ambitious attempt to establish communication with a truly alien intelligence discovered in the wake of Marcus Vidal's initial encounter. Her background was unique. Unlike traditional diplomats, Aria was a linguistic quantum theorist specializing in nonlinear communication patterns. Her doctorate focused on the mathematical foundations of language, exploring how intelligence might communicate beyond traditional verbal or written forms. The Nexus Collective existed in a state that defied conventional understanding. Not quite a civilization, not a singular entity, but a complex network of interconnected consciousness that seemed to exist across multiple dimensional planes. Initiating first-phase resonance protocol, the chamber's AI announced. The walls of the diplomatic chamber began to shift, their molecular structure becoming increasingly translucent. Holographic representations of complex mathematical equations started to dance around Aria, creating intricate patterns that seemed to breathe and pulse with an internal logic. She closed her eyes, concentrating. The translation matrix was more than a technological device. It was an extension of her own cognitive processes. Years of training had prepared her to think beyond linear communication, to perceive language as a living, dynamic system. A wave of information began to flow. Not words, not images, but pure conceptual constructs that challenged the very notion of communication. The Nexus Collective was trying to share something fundamental about their existence. Their language was a complex interplay of quantum probabilities, mathematical relationships that existed simultaneously in multiple states. Aria's mind expanded, struggling to comprehend the incoming transmission. Fragments of understanding began to emerge. Survival, adaptation, connection, concepts that transcended individual existence. The diplomatic chamber itself seemed to become part of the communication. Walls morphed, reflecting complex geometric patterns that were both a message and a method of transmission. Establishing cognitive resonance, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. Each pulse of information was like a wave of pure potential. The Nexus Collective wasn't just sharing information. They were offering a glimpse into a fundamentally different way of perceiving reality. Suddenly, a breakthrough. A moment of clarity emerged from the complex quantum dialogue. The collective was revealing something critical about the universe, a warning and an invitation. Something was approaching. Something that existed beyond the current understanding of spatial and temporal boundaries. A convergence of existential threats that would require unprecedented cooperation. Aria's hands trembled. The information was overwhelming, pushing against the limits of human comprehension. She was receiving not just a message, but an entire perspective on existence. The diplomatic mission had transformed. What began as an attempt to establish communication had become something far more profound, a potential key to humanity's survival. As the transmission reached its peak, Aria understood that this was more than a first contact scenario. This was a fundamental reimagining of what it meant to be intelligent, to be alive, to exist. The universe had just opened a door, and humanity was being invited to step through. Waves of uncertainty. Marcus Vidal gripped the navigation controls of the scout ship Horizon Breaker, his weathered hands moving with practiced precision. The vast expanse of the Kepler corridor stretched before him, a region of space notoriously difficult to navigate, filled with gravitational anomalies and unpredictable stellar debris. Unlike standard exploration vessels, the Horizon Breaker was a custom-built reconnaissance craft. Sleek, minimalist, designed for speed and stealth rather than comfort. Marcus had spent the last decade charting the most challenging sectors of human-explored space, earning a reputation as the go-to scout for impossible missions. His current assignment was unusual even by his standards. A cryptic transmission from Research Station Epsilon had caught the attention of Earth Command. Dr. Kendra Reese's abbreviated report suggested something extraordinary happening on Proxima 7, but the details were maddeningly sparse. Approaching Sector 9 Gamma, the ship's AI announced. Gravitational interference increasing. Marcus adjusted the ship's quantum stabilizers. The Kepler corridor was notorious for its unpredictable energy fields. Ships had disappeared here without a trace, swallowed by invisible cosmic currents. A sudden burst of static erupted from the communication console. Marcus frowned. The transmission was unlike anything he'd encountered before. Not random noise, but something purposeful, structured, almost like a language, but not quite. Filter and analyze, he commanded the AI. The display flickered. Fragments of data began to coalesce. Geometric patterns emerged, complex, shifting, defying traditional communication protocols. Whatever was generating this signal was intelligent, but fundamentally different from any known communication system. A proximity alert interrupted his analysis. Something was approaching. Something massive. The ship's sensors struggled to define the object. It didn't match any known spacecraft design. No traditional propulsion system. No recognizable energy signature. It simply existed, moving with an impossible grace through the stellar debris. Marcus's training kicked in. He prepared defensive protocols, though he knew conventional weapons would be useless against something so alien. Incoming transmission, the AI reported. Translation protocols engage. But this was no transmission in any traditional sense. It was more like a mathematical equation becoming alive. Patterns of light and energy that seemed to pulse with an underlying intelligence. Marcus watched, transfixed, as the mysterious object began to reshape itself. Not mechanically, but organically, like a living thought taking physical form. His mind raced. First contact scenarios had been theorized, trained for, but nothing prepared him for this moment of absolute uncertainty. The object, or entity, seemed to be studying him as much as he was studying it. An exchange of curiosity, of mutual incomprehension. Establish baseline communication protocol. Marcus whispered, knowing the request was almost laughably inadequate. The ship's systems began to respond in ways Marcus had never seen. Data streams transformed. Sensor readings became something more than information. They became a kind of dialogue. Whatever was happening transcended traditional understanding of communication, of intelligence, of the very boundaries between living and non-living systems. Marcus Vidal, a veteran of countless dangerous missions, felt something he rarely experienced. Pure, unadulterated wonder. The horizon breaker drifted. The mysterious entity continued its impossible transformation. And between them, a conversation was happening. Not with words, but with the fundamental language of existence itself. The universe, it seemed, was far stranger than humanity had ever imagined. Echoes of the frontier. The wind howled across the crystalline plains of Proxima 7, carrying microscopic ice particles that glinted like diamond dust against the twin suns. Dr. Kendra Reese adjusted her thermal suit, her breath creating small clouds of condensation inside her helmet. 23 months of isolation had taught her to find beauty in the most desolate landscapes. Research Station Epsilon stood as a solitary sentinel against the alien terrain. Its modular design, a marvel of human engineering, was the only structure for thousands of kilometers. Kendra's fingers danced across the holographic interface, analyzing the latest microbial samples collected from the planet's subsurface caverns. Anomalous protein structure detected, the station's AI announced in its neutral tone. Molecular composition differs from previous samples by 0.037%. Most researchers would have dismissed such a minute variation, but not Kendra. Her reputation in xenobiology wasn't built on conventional thinking. She zoomed in on the molecular map, her brown eyes narrowing with intense concentration. The sample originated from a cavern system discovered 3 weeks ago, located approximately 2.3 kilometers beneath the planet's surface. Initial scans suggested a complex ecosystem existing in complete darkness, sustained by geothermal energy and unique chemical interactions. A sudden tremor interrupted her analysis. The station's stabilization systems hummed to life, dampening the vibration. Proxima 7 was geologically active, but this felt different, more purposeful. Seismic activity detected, the AI reported. Origin point: Cavern Complex Delta 9. Kendra's heart raced. Something was moving down there. Something that didn't conform to any known geological or biological pattern. She initiated the remote drone deployment sequence. 6 sophisticated exploratory units, each equipped with advanced scanning technology, would descend into the cavern system. Their primary mission: gather data without disturbing the potential ecosystem. As the drones disappeared into the darkness, Kendra monitored their progress. The first 3 descended smoothly, their sensors painting a complex picture of underground terrain. Rocky formations twisted in impossible geometries, channels of superheated mineral-rich water creating intricate networks. The 4th drone's feed suddenly fractured. Static replaced the crisp imaging. Then, a glimpse. Something moved. Not a geological formation, not a random creature, something deliberate. Enhance Quadrant 7 Alpha, Kendra commanded. The image stabilized for a millisecond. A surface. Smooth. Reflective. Definitely not natural. Before she could process what she was seeing, the remaining drones went dark. Isolation had prepared Kendra for many scenarios, but not this. Something in the depths of Proxima 7 had just demonstrated capabilities far beyond her initial research parameters. Was it a complex geological phenomenon, a previously undiscovered life form, or something else entirely? The station's emergency protocols remained calm. No immediate threat detected, but Kendra knew better. The universe rarely revealed its secrets without complexity. Her communication array pinged, a scheduled check-in with Earth Command. They would want a report. How could she explain something she barely understood herself? One thing was certain: the discovery brewing beneath the icy surface of Proxima 7 would change everything humanity understood about life, intelligence, and the vast unknown of space. The wind continued to howl outside, indifferent to the potential revolution happening within the research station's walls. Quantum horizon. The convergence point was unlike anything in human scientific records, a spatial anomaly located at the intersection of 3 previously unexplored star systems. It defied conventional physics. Dr. Kendra Reese and Marcus Vittle stood side by side in the primary control room of the Horizon Breaker, watching as Area Kalani's quantum communication data streamed across multiple holographic displays. The Nexus Collective's warning is clear, Area's transmission explained. What's approaching isn't just a threat. It's a fundamental restructuring of existential boundaries. Kendra's fingers danced across the analytical interfaces, correlating the data from her original Proxima 7 research with the new information. The microscopic anomalies she discovered were now revealed as early manifestations of a cosmic-scale transformation. Marcus studied the tactical readouts. Years of frontier scouting had taught him to recognize patterns of potential conflict, but this was something entirely different. "This isn't an invasion," he murmured. "It's more like a recalibration." The ship's quantum drives hummed with an unusual resonance. The technology that had once seemed cutting-edge now felt primitive compared to the communication patterns they were receiving. A holographic representation materialized between them. A complex, multi-dimensional construct that seemed to breathe and pulse with its own intelligence. It was the Nexus Collective's method of visualization, a way of translating incomprehensible cosmic events into a form marginally understandable to human perception. The convergence will begin in 17 standard time units, the representation communicated, not through sound, but through a direct neural interface that translated pure concept into momentary understanding. Kendra realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. The boundaries between different forms of intelligence, biological, technological, quantum, were dissolving. What humans had considered separate realms of existence were about to become interconnected in ways no one had predicted. Marcus prepared the ship's defensive systems, though he understood traditional weaponry would be useless. This wasn't a conflict to be fought, but a transformation to be navigated. "We're not defending." Aria's voice came through the communication array. "We're participating." The convergence point began to expand. Reality itself seemed to become flexible, malleable. Quantum probabilities collapsed and reformed, creating impossible geometries that challenged everything humans understood about space and time. In that moment, Kendra understood the true nature of their mission. Humanity wasn't facing a threat. They were being invited to evolve. Streams of pure information flowed around the horizon breaker. Mathematical constructs became living systems. Dimensional boundaries became permeable. The very fabric of existence began to pulse with a rhythmic, collaborative intelligence. Marcus gripped the navigation controls, but traditional piloting meant nothing now. They were being guided, not by external force, but by a collective understanding that transcended individual perception. "Hold on," Kendra whispered, though no physical action could prepare them for what was coming. The convergence reached its peak. Reality folded, unfolded, restructured, and humanity took its first step into a fundamentally new understanding of existence. Quantum echoes. The membrane between realities shimmered like liquid consciousness, pulsing with potentials that defied linear understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the edge of human comprehension, her quantum observation station suspended in a space that was neither here nor there. 3 solar cycles had passed since the initial convergence that transformed human understanding of existence. The events experienced by Kendra Reese, Marcus Vidal, and Aria Kalani had become both legend and scientific foundation. A moment when humanity discovered it was part of something far more complex than anyone had ever imagined. Elena's station, dubbed the Horizon Nexus, represented humanity's most advanced attempt to study the aftermath of the quantum transformation. Unlike traditional research facilities, this was a living system, part technology, part biological interface, part something entirely unprecedented. Quantum fluctuation detected in Sector 7 Delta, the station's neural interface whispered, not spoke, whispered. Language had become something more nuanced, more alive since the convergence. Her team was a diverse collective of researchers who had been fundamentally altered by their exposure to the Nexus Collective's communication patterns. Some had developed extraordinary cognitive abilities. Others could perceive dimensional layers invisible to standard human perception. Dr. Rajiv Mehta, her primary research partner, approached with a holographic projection dancing between his fingertips. The projection was alive, mathematical equations that breathed, transformed, communicated. "The resonance patterns are becoming more complex," Rajiv observed. His eyes, once brown, now flickered with subtle quantum variations, a physical manifestation of the changes humanity was experiencing. Elena understood immediately. The cosmic transformation wasn't a single event. It was a continuous process, a dialogue between different forms of intelligence the humans were gradually learning to comprehend. The Horizon Nexus began to resonate. Not an alarm, not a warning, but a communication. Something was reaching out. Fragments of memory surfaced. The initial encounters, Kendra's discovery in the depths of Proxima 7, Marcus's impossible navigation through the Kepler corridor, Aria's groundbreaking communication with the Nexus Collective. Each moment had been a stepping stone. Each researcher had been preparing humanity for this next stage of evolution. "Preparing quantum interface," Elena murmured. The station's walls became translucent, revealing a cosmic landscape that defied traditional understanding. Streams of pure information flowed like rivers of light. Dimensional boundaries flickered and danced, showing the interconnectedness of what humans once considered separate realities. Rajiv's projection transformed. No longer a static hologram, but a living communication matrix. "They're attempting direct resonance," he said, his voice a blend of scientific precision and profound wonder. The Nexus Collective was not a singular entity. It was a complex network of intelligences that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional planes. What humans had initially perceived as alien communication was actually an invitation to a broader understanding of existence. Elena felt the communication wash over her. It wasn't language. It wasn't thought. It was pure potential, a way of perceiving reality that transcended individual consciousness. Memories of the previous researchers flooded her perception. Kendra's microscopic discoveries, Marcus's impossible navigation, Aria's quantum linguistic breakthroughs. Their experiences were now part of a larger narrative, a collective understanding that was reshaping the very fabric of human perception. Quantum bridge stabilizing, the station's neural interface announced. A portal began to form, not a physical doorway, but a confluence of probabilistic realities. Streams of information, mathematical constructs, and pure consciousness began to intertwine. Humanity was being invited to take another step. Not a conquest, not an invasion, but a transformation. The horizon nexus trembled. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. "Prepare for quantum resonance," Elena whispered. And then everything changed.